Happy Monday.
Hey!
Hello, everybody.
Yo.
It's time for the Weird Things show. We're going to do Weird Things in a few minutes. Hi, everybody. How's everybody's Monday? Everybody have a good weekend?
Yeah, you know, this is always a weird weekend. Like a lot of gatherings, you know.
You guys getting all your holiday shopping done?
No. Well, I did a little bit. I got stuff from my mom, but I haven't gotten anything for Ashley yet. Although we totally, this is one of those like we're not gonna get stuff, but then
You're definitely gonna get each other stuff.
you don't want to be the only asshole on Christmas that didn't surprise get something.
Yeah. I this was super weird. I was trying to buy stuff on Amazon, noted online retailer, this morning, and had the worst time trying to check out on the mobile app. It didn't want to log me in, and so I would get partway through checkout, and it would just like keep looping the same screen over and over again, and I was trying to do all the gift options, and it was like just not going through, to the point where I had to get on I just had to boot up my computer, and thank God the cart, is synced between all that stuff. But it was like I'm trying to give you money here.
I'll tell you what, man. Like the mobile space is a weird one. There was a hot minute that David Rowan, working over at the workshop, wanted to upgrade. He had an ancient.
He's got that old MacBook.
Yeah. Not anymore.
Oh.
I told him to go out and buy a grown-up computer, and he told me that he went out and got an iPad Pro, thinking that, with the keyboard, between the keyboard and stuff, it's got the processing power or whatever.
Sure.
But the mere way everybody formats, like when the browser knows you're a mobile device and the site serves up the mobile edition, you just can't get anything done that way.
There's a very hidden way on iOS to request the browser version. Like on Android and like on Chrome, it's super easy because it's like under that three dots menu. You actually hold the reload button, and you get the option to reload without as a desktop.
Sorry, this is on which browser?
On Safari.
Okay, all right, dude, that's great. Because I do that all the time. It's a bug hunt to find the show me the desktop.
Yeah, so
version.
it's you hold the reload button, and so you can get requested desktop site, or you can reload the page without your ad block. If you have an ad block app, it'll turn those off. So check that out.
Got it.
So I spent some time this morning buying Christmas gifts. I bought Christmas gifts, and I'm having them delivered to my parents' house, but I don't get there until.
Hey, do they not have the wrapping option this year?
Do. Yeah, it's gift box and gift wrap options.
Okay, I guess I didn't. I did a Control F and typed wrap, and nothing came up. But instead, what came up was, do you want the box this comes in to be in a bigger box to hide the box that it's inside?
Okay.
And I was like, well, I guess that'll do? ?
Yeah.
And then
I don't know if it, because I know you can click like this order contains a
You know what?
gift.
You know what I bet it is. I bet it's one of those Prime affiliates that
and
ship
not a real
directly. Yeah, and so it just didn't give me the option on that, and
Could
I
be.
assumed it just wasn't.
Because
there.
everything I ordered.
Maybe.
is
For a while though, they were also just doing the sacks. Like you just
Oh.
got it in a bag, in like a nice, in like a fake velvet bag.
I think that's what they're doing now, because it used to just be you would only get the blue box with the orange wrapping.
Yeah.
But now the product or the image that they have for it now is like there are like a lot of different options, and I guess they've expanded some of that stuff. So
I mean, to be fair, that probably is the more streamlined process instead of like wrapping something with care. Just like just chuck it in his bag.
fucking bag.
Hey, you want a gift? Open the bag. Get the bag, lady.
Yeah, stuff that fist in that bag.
Yeah,
just open
get it,
wide.
bag style.
Just goatsy that present wide.
Man,
Oh
didn't
my
take long
gosh,
for
what a
Andrew to be
present.
gone before we got to Goatsy.
Oh man, we've got some good stories today. You guys want to do some weird things?
Yeah, man,
Let's
feeling
do
it.
it.
Okay, here you go.
Hold on, I just got 3 calls from New Jersey. Can I figure out who this is?
Sure. Well, maybe it's
Hello, this is Brian.
Christy.
No.
Oh, it's right, Christmas.
I hang up
I can fix it, but a little fatter.
immediately. Like if I don't hear if I like first thing is room tone. If I hear room tone, you got 2 extra seconds.
Okay.
But if I don't hear room tone and I hear room tone turn on, then I'm like bloop and I'm out.
You know what I just started doing?
If it's
is,
important, they'll call back. Yeah.
if I get the robocall, I'll hit as many buttons as I can to try to get a human, and I will waste their time like getting their name and the address and the name of the company that they work for and the street. Like try to get as much personal information out of them.
Yeah.
To like try to force them to get me off of their list.
That's a
'Cause
pretty
you-
good way to do it.
Because you could just say, "Don't put me on your list," and they're never going to listen because I'm already on the do not call list.
Right.
But if you
Well, and
waste
it's
their-
also illegal for them to contact you soliciting stuff on a cell phone.
you'd think so.
Yep.
But if I ask for organization information or just waste their time,
They're like bad bet is what
Yeah.
they write on there.
that's right, the bad bet button. All right, let's do the weird things. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Weird Things podcast. It is December 18. Of course, I am your host, Bryce Castillo.
As you have always been.
As always.
Yeah.
Of
You
course,
can
And
tell
can
because-
I mention, this is just what a great intro. I mean, like, I don't know what it is, what's different than the normal intro, but like that was crisp. That
I
was
saw
inviting.
him have a smoothie beforehand.
Yeah.
I think it had some spirulina in it, and he's
Some
got
of
a
the-
little more zest right
some of the-
now.
some
Yeah.
of the wheat
No,
grass.
it's this is just we're flying, man.
Yeah.
We're off. We're off to the races.
Of course, that's the voice of Brian Brushwood
Hello.
and Justin Robert Young.
Oh, hi.
Hi. Gentlemen, today I received a dossier in my email of some very weird things happening.
Oh, well, I mean,
Uh,
we better
who-
investigate. That's our
Who
job,
sent it-
right?
Who sent it to you?
From someone, Andrew.
Concerned
Andrew
citizen.
Mail. Mr. Andrew Mail, I believe. We'll have to double check that name.
Hey, but we always love listener mail. So just whenever you get a chance to write in some listener, we love our listeners. They
Great.
are great.
They're the heart and blood of
Eating
the Soul
heart.
Show.
The heart and the blood.
And the blood.
No, unfortunately, we should have capillaries now that I think about it. Heart and blood is not enough. You just make a mess that way, don't you?
All right. So, gentlemen, what do you know about volcanoes?
I know that Sir Arthur Conan Doyle once called them the zits of planet Earth.
Is that real?
Yeah, no, it's not.
I would have believed you. I would've-
wish. You know what? It might have been Sir Paul McCartney that called them the zits
Okay, now
of planet
I,
Earth.
I really believed that one.
Man, noted volcanologist, Sir Paul McCartney.
Well,
Uh,
yeah. So, like, what are some of the most notable?
What you
volcanoes?
think of? Certainly, when I was a kid watching 321 Contact, they showed a bunch of lava flows in Hawaii,
Oh, sure. They have a lot of active volcanoes all the time.
right? And in fact, Bonnie's lifetime goal is to poke lava with a stick.
Oh.
And the closest we've gotten so far is melting a big bunch of thermite to, that's what, 4,000, 5,000 degrees, and it's just molten. It's only iron. But if you imagine that lava is only iron, then I would assume the experience of poking that with a stick is
Pretty
fairly
similar.
analogous. Not the same.
It gives a good, home version of our game.
Yeah,
right?
exactly,
As
exactly.
far as lava goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I also know that Krakatoa exploded in the 1800s, and the shockwave was felt around the world twice,
Oh wow.
Yeah.
and that they had colder winters for the following couple years
Because of particulates.
of debris, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pompeii.
You know that one dude
Yeah,
at Vesuvius got caught rolling the dice.
That's right.
allegedly.
Oh, wait, was that Pompeii or Vesuvius?
Oh, well, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's Pompeii. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess volcanoes, Mount St. Helens.
Mount St. Helens.
I know. Oh my God, there's some harrowing footage of. Forgive me if I'm not remembering the story right, but I believe it was somebody who knew he was going to die, but got the shot. Like he saw that explosion, and was like, this. I am going to die, but I'm going to get this shot. And then after he got the shot, I want to say like covered with his body or some shit. I don't know.
Oh jeez.
Yeah.
That's brutal.
I'm
but-
could be also totally fictitious.
Okay,
knowing me, I almost want to look it up, but I'm not.
We'll
I'm
throw
not
some salt
inclined.
on the lava and hope. So we've mentioned a couple of American ones like in Hawaii and Mount St. Helens. Yellowstone is kind of a volcanic.
Super volcano getting ready to destroy planet Earth.
That's right.
That's
Yeah.
like. Do you? Okay, real quick. Can we do a quick side journey? A little rest stop on our trip to Volcano
yeah.
Town.
No, hey, yeah. Listen, there's nobody. I feel like there's like a certain restrictor plate that's been taken off of this episode. we can go wherever you want now.
I would imagine I feel much like C-3PO when he had the restraining bolt removed. A big relief. You could just go anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, please.
So, the Yellowstone supervolcano, and I'm
Yeah.
sure most people have heard of it, but if you haven't, basically all of Yellowstone has, there's a reason that it's got Old Faithful and the boiling acid pits and all this stuff.
It's basically a dormant volcano waiting to erupt. And
Like the size
potentially-
of Wyoming, ready
Yeah.
to just explode. And when it does, that certainly lights out for all of North America, probably lights out for most of humanity, if not all.
Yeah.
Do you think there's going to be any precursors, any warnings? Are we going to get some earthquakes there, and then, as if it's a Michael Bay movie, out of the woodwork will come a bunch of scientists from community colleges, like, I've been studying this for years. Don't you understand? We got
Yeah.
to. And I don't know what. Maybe the answer is. Maybe this is our new Deep Impact Hollywood movie.
Okay.
It's called Lance the Boil, and.
Sure.
It's about the Yellowstone supervolcano,
Yeah.
and it's full to bursting, like a zit, and then
And then Captain Lance Big Arms has
okay,
to go.
okay, you know what?
and pilot
There is a
the
guy
ship.
who happens to be named Lance,
Yeah.
and in fact, like, there's a scientist who says this is about to pop, it's going to destroy humanity, and they're like, well,
And
what can we do about it?
He's running into some government agency, and he's got like a mustard stain on his shirt, and he's got like a lot of loose paper. Like I don't know why he would have like one of those big like old driving maps. Like
Yes,
that's like
yes, and
he's
he
he's
circles it.
flailing it around. Yeah.
He circles it with his red highlighter, and he's like,
Yeah.
"This is
And
ground
he has
zero."
some kind of metaphor, right? It's just like imagine you're in a bathtub, and if you put 2 bowling balls in the bathtub, all of a sudden it's like he's got one of the because you got to explain it to the audience.
Sure,
right?
sure.
Right.
Okay, so here's what they figure out. He knows that the super volcano is about to pop, right? And so he's like, and the military advisors are like, well, what do you suggest we do? We can't exactly fix this. And he's like, okay, here's what you do. And then much like that scene from Armageddon, with the firecracker in your hand versus the firecracker around a closed fist.
Yeah.
He explains it in simple terms about being a kid and hitting puberty and having
get
a
a
massive
huge
super volcano of a zit. And what do you do? And he's like, and he goes, that's right, you lance it. And he's like, well, what's that going to do? Whether it explodes all at once or you lance it, it's still going to destroy humanity. He's like, no. He's like, you have a military surplus from the bunker buster that was meant for Saddam Hussein penetrates 6,000 meters deep because
Yeah.
that's how deep we thought it was.
Sure.
If you fire one of those, it will
Into
create a
Yellowstone.
tunnel that will lance, and all the lava will shoot out so much lava that it won't cover the earth. So much lava with so much force that it will launch all the way into space. Okay, like it
A
will.
directed line. a
Yes,
single
yes.
line, okay.
Like you ever have a squirter of a zit?
Yes.
And okay, so he's like, it'll blast on the mirror of space, right? So he's like the atmosphere stays clean and
and Earth has a
everything
new
will be
beauty
fine.
spot.
And then they're like, wait, that much mass ejecting from the Earth, won't that affect our orbit?
Our orbit
and
around
he
the
says
sun.
he says yes, if we do it during the middle of the day, it will push planet Earth to a farther
Away
orbit,
from the sun.
solving global warming at the same time.
Oh my God.
Okay?
Wow,
And then
okay.
and also all that, you're like, oh, what about all that ejecta? And it's like, oh, Earth will now have a ring like Saturn. And it's like, oh, this is brilliant,
wow.
right?
Yeah.
And then and so the final scene is and by the way, we were like, well, who's gonna deliver this payload?
Me, Lance Big Arms.
The door opens and he goes, my name is Lance Boyle. And then there's a hush and he goes, Boyle. And then they're like, oh, are you a descendant of James Boyle? He's like, yes, of course I am.
course.
And then
Now I need to know what happened to the end of the movie.
somebody,
We're too far in, Justin.
somebody says, of Boyle's Law fame? He's like, yes, we all get it. I have a scientific lineage. And
But also,
he's like,
I'm a pilot. I'm the best gosh darn pilot you ever seen. I've dropped bombs from here to another place.
But I've never brought water up to 100 degrees Celsius.
exactly. Yes. And then they're like, what's your personal situation? And he says, well, I'm an alcoholic. And everyone leans in. And he goes, and I've done some reprehensible things in my past. And they lean in farther. And he's like, but most of all, I want to make things right between me and my estranged wife and kids. And everybody just bursts into applause, clapping. And then they give him the SR-71 Blackbird, and then they set up the
bunker
bomb,
buster.
and they do the bunker buster, and he goes and he has one Skype call with his wife and kid, and then he launches it, blasts it out, and then the last scene is all the debris that doesn't form Earth's new rings rains down in the most beautiful star show ever.
Yeah.
And
it's snowing in July.
yeah, snowing in July. They call it the July
There's
Miracle.
an Amy Mann song playing.
Yeah. So anyway, listen, we could start
Now-
production early March.
If I could provide a note,
yes.
Yeah.
it's expensive to shoot in Yellowstone National Park. Turns out there's a volcano underneath there.
Oh, good point.
But what if we could keep that story scientifically accurate,
Okay.
but set it somewhere else in the United States? Where else could we set that movie other than Yellowstone National Park?
I mean, I would say San Andreas, Justin, but that's just we're just stealing from Superman at that point, right? Or the movie San Andreas,
Or the movie San Andreas.
or the movie 2012, or any of them.
Literally any super earthquake movie. Well, I don't know, but is there any on the East Coast? Isn't there like some like fault line in like the New York area or DC area?
Isn't like under the Appalachians super? Did you know that the Appalachians used to be the tallest mountains on the planet?
And then what happened?
Time, and the reason you could tell
Mostly self-esteem.
the reason you could tell. So India has smashed into Asia fairly recently, which is why Everest and all those mountains are super, super jagged because they've recently been pushed up, right? The Appalachians were the result of the same kind of continental collision.
Which is why they're
rounded, and they've just had time. Because think about it. Every time it rains, let's say, a fistful of dirt comes off the mountain.
Sure.
And
you do that for over a million years.
You give it a million
the
years,
roads,
that's a lot of fistfuls of dirt, and you get these rounded, sloping hills.
Wow. Well, what if Appalachia is a good choice?
Yeah.
Right? Maybe a little older, though. What if I told you we could set it somewhere in Vermont?
Well, that's
Vermont.
weird.
I mean, not exactly the setting for roiling conflict. You know, the Vermont folk are kind of a peaceful people.
Hang on. No. Think this through. Opening shot at a Bernie Sanders rally, and it says 2015 or 2016, And then, in fact, it says exactly that, 2015 or 2016. and everybody's losing their mind, going nuts and getting angry. So it's a roiling cesspot of populist energy in that spot.
And that's what triggers the volcano is the rise of populist energy.
Well, I don't know. I got to hear more about this volcano.
Wait a minute. All right, here. How about this one? All right. Establishing shot. Graveyard. Right. There is a funeral service attended by one person. He drops a rose down under the falling casket. It's Jerry burying Ben.
Oh God!
And next thing you know, he gets a page. He still has a beeper for some reason, and it's a 911. And he's like, now to do my second favorite thing, solve volcano problem.
Hey, by the way, another picnic right here.
Okay.
Bryce and I went to the Ben and Jerry's tour, their factory, one of their factories. They act like it's the factory. It's a factory.
Oh, is it only the?
Oh, yeah. No.
Oh.
Well, okay. Hey, we watched this whole Jurassic Park orientation movie. And the whole first 8 minutes about down home, good values, hate Vietnam, screw you, Nixon, Ben and Jerry's, we're the best.
And in the last 2
minutes, in the last 3 minutes, it's just the one thing they swore they'd never do was sell out to a major corporation. 3 years later, they sold to Unilever, and now it's a Unilever brand. Anyway, go to the gift shop.
Have some Americone Dream.
Yeah, an Americone Dream, yes.
The Americone Dream is good. That got me eating Americone Dream.
Really?
Wait, there's a volcano in Vermont? Is that what you're telling me?
So scientists, using a network of thousands of seismic measurement devices in the largest geographical study of its kind, found that an enormous blob of lava was ascending under Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, just in general the New England area. There's potentially in the geological time frame, right? We're talking a long amount of time. A new volcano could appear in the American New England.
Wait, hold on. Wait, how does a volcano start?
I mean,
does somebody kill a warlock or something?
Well, no. I mean, it's
it's pressure. It's pressure underneath.
I made the joke of the zit comparison, but it's a zit is you get infected and you have white blood cells fighting bacteria, and you get pus, right? And then it builds pressure, and then at some point,
and then it releases.
It's got to break, right. And then that's what happens with the rock.
And my understanding is that it creates a geological form that there is now an access point for that pressure to be relieved from underground.
So basically, water goes downhill, and lava, the pressure goes up. So wherever it's weakest, it keeps pressing. And the hot lava weakens it more and more and more to where finally there's a crack. Everything bursts right on out, sometimes to space, according to my movie.
Sure. Yes.
Yeah. So is there such a thing as volcano management? Is there a way that in the way that we have subjugated the rest of Mother Nature to our will that we can do something to alleviate a gigantic super volcano killing us all?
So I believe the answer to that is no. The Science Alert...
Not yet.
Yes, not yet. The ScienceAlert.com article mentions multiple times that it's going to take a very long time for anything to happen because of this. One quote here is, come back in 50 million years and we'll see what happens. I don't know that there's anything we can do about a volcano appearing because I don't think that we as human... I don't know that we have the long-term scope to...
So let's say they figured out that this is underneath a major city, right? Okay. Like Montpelier or whatever.
Sure.
So I would imagine, we've done mining projects before, and we have, as the United States, the phone number to Elon Musk. It would not be the craziest thing to just say, boring company... Get your drill machine.
Laterally go down.
That's it's come in from the side. We want you to dig a 5-mile tunnel that begins at this relatively safe area and just drives right underneath at increasingly going down until finally it pierces there. So basically, just make a more attractive vehicle. I mean, we've never done that, but we built a tunnel. How long is the tunnel?
Let's see, channel length.
Meanwhile, all that lava is floating out. We make a nice little public park on the other side of it. Give out free sticks.
See, look at that.
Bonnie will have the time of her life.
Yeah.
Channel's 31 miles. It seems like
The longest mile is the Delaware Aqueduct at 85.1 miles.
Wait, the longest mile? Oh, tunnel.
80, the longest tunnel is
Okay.
85 miles. Even.
See, I mean, that seems like once that pierces, I mean, the question is, would that be a more attractive outflow?
Right.
You probably have to. I don't know how that works.
Yeah, that's tough because it's not necessarily gas. If this is being specifically described a blob of hot rocks.
Oh, also in the movie, it's the result of fracking.
Okay.
That's Mother Nature got angry at the fracking.
That's how we get this thing green lit.
That's all right.
The final shot of the movie is the president signing a bill, and it's ultra close up on his face, and he says, "Frack off."
Frack off, nature.
Yeah.
So I
just got fracked.
I don't know that a solid or a semi-solid.
No,
like, lava
he turns to the camera and says, "That's a frack attack, America."
Say, I'll tell you what. If you want to frack attack your wallet in our benefit, then go ahead and head on over to patreon.com/weirdthings. Hey,
I'm so glad to hear this. I've been hating my wallet for the longest time, and I was like, "Oh, I wish I could stick it to that man. Oh, always in charge of me. Why don't
it up?
Yeah,
Crack it
take
up
charge.
and crack it out, baby. That's what we do on the Weird Things podcast. Hey, also, by the way, this is probably something that we're going to do on literally every show throughout the week. But we were making jokes last week about there was some stuff with Patreon. They had new fee stuff, a new way of looking at things. Guess what? Santa Conti showed up and said, "Ho, ho, ho, we're not doing that. That was a major mistake, and we apologize." So don't worry, nothing has changed to your pledge. If you are already pledged, please go ahead and do it. If you were thinking about pledging, this is obviously a time of year when you like to pull out your wallet and buy things for yourself and those that you love. Then consider becoming a patron with no worry that it will be any different than the way that we've always done it. Give whatever you want per episode, and it will always go to a good home. So thank you guys so much.
Man, do we want to save it for after things, or do we want to deconstruct a little bit of the calculus on the Patreon thing? Or is that too inside baseball?
We can do it. Yeah, I think it affected a lot of people who rely like us on Patreon. I mean, listen, Patreon doing that, and this will maybe be a little bit tease for it after things, like that's on the right side of maybe I need to freshen up my resume. Like that was a scary moment in time, and I think it was also for a lot of different people. So we can talk about it.
Yeah, okay. Well, we'll talk about it in after things.
After things, check it out. Now this is the part of the show where we get a little raunchy.
Oh,
jeez.
Unlike
people are already. I mean, normally we're doing our customary weird things. Super long improv movie scene, which is something that is certainly a Weird Things bit and not in any way like the other show that Brian, Bryce, and I do called Night Attack. So now we'll get into the raunchy bit. Another thing that we always do on Weird Things.
Always do it. Gentlemen, you both saw Wonder Woman, right?
I did. Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman.
Wow, it's Wonder Woman. Wow.
So then it may not surprise you, maybe. I don't know. Would you recognize the main star of Wonder Woman, Gal Gadot, if you saw her as not Wonder Woman?
I mean, I've seen her as Gal Gadot standing with her husband, who was wearing a T-shirt that says "Your girlfriend be like," and it showed woman icon. My girlfriend be like, and it shows Wonder Woman, and he was standing next to the character.
Okay.
I saw her in another movie. Like she was just like a big statuesque, sexy lady playing a statuesque, sexy lady character. So I don't know.
So a video that was posted on Reddit I believe this past week, it shows Gal Gadot, and it's Maybe a little bit of.
Oh my goodness, that's not a flashlight.
That's not a flashlight.
No, that's a kind of light that lights the way to a certain thing.
Yeah. So this is this is a fake.
Oh, it is?
This video
Yes.
is a fake. This is not Gal Gadot on step siblings
Now,
cot. This is
Hold on. Did they Photoshop her face onto it, or
this is not
This
Photoshop.
is new motion tracking.
This is not motion tracking. This is machine learning.
no?
So a Reddit user who goes by the name Deepfake. Let me make sure I got that right. Deepfakes used open source libraries like Keras and TensorFlow, which are machine learning libraries, and it fed it YouTube images, stock photos, Google image searches of Gal Gadot, and trained it with pornography videos.
Yeah.
And taught the node to complete this task, which was to convincingly manipulate video on the fly. And so he posted a video on one of these websites, and then to YouTube, and then to Reddit, of a porno, but Gal Gadot's face has been imposed mostly convincingly on the actress's face.
Wow.
And so
It's Gal Gadot.
it's-
Wow.
it's a pretty quick step from we talked about Adobe's Voco when it premiered. I think it was late last year.
Yeah.
Which was where you fed it a lot of audio of somebody talking, and it could synthesize new words based off of like a 15-minute voice sample.
As a matter of fact, did you happen to listen to the Radiolab episode they did about Voco?
No, I didn't.
They covered the demo and all that stuff, but they talked about the political implications of that, and they were pointing that in a culture that is fast to react, fast to condemn, and fast to blow stuff up, what happens when it's so easy to create convincing fakes of everything? And specifically, they called out that the was it Access Hollywood footage or the audio from now
From
President
the,
Trump?
the,
Trump
the,
and
the,
Billy
the famous
Bush.
the famous Trump grab 'em
Right,
tape.
correct. And they were talking about like that happened before the announcement of Voco. Post announcement of Voco, what happens when somebody now has the ripcord to always pull of that didn't happen, that's fake. And we are pre authentication on all this, right? Everything is not like the answer, of course, is in 5 years, things will be digitally signed in a way that verifies, that preserves the chain, and you believe. And in fact, I want to say that the iPhone already tags stuff in a certain way. I may be making that up, or maybe announced feature or a future feature.
But I mean, if there's enough metadata, you could say, oh yeah, this was saved on an iOS.
Correct,
device or
correct,
something.
and it's
Sure.
definitely been untampered with between here and there,
Sure.
right? But since that reporting, now, not to get too political, but all of a sudden, President Trump testing out the phrase, "Oh no, it's fake. That didn't happen. That didn't happen." Even though he copped to it, even though but the climate has changed, and there's an increasing belief that anything can be faked. And then, but we're in that mushy middle where it's like we're in a phase where anything can be faked, but not anything can be verified, and it makes things all of a sudden we're back to the 1800s, and we need to trust we go by trust by a person's name and reputation.
Well, and I think that's
Well,
partly
yeah,
why Voco is not in the Creative Suite yet. Why it's still just a thing that they showed off last year.
Well,
people
and
don't
it
have
is being used. It is being used for movies. They are selling it, and they are.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, for example, because the problem is like let's say you're doing the Avengers stuff, and there's one line. Principal photography is all done. There's one line that has a politically charged meaning now, and you're like, well, we can alter the lips or whatever, but we need Captain America to come in and do some ADR. That's automatic dialogue replacement. Is that what it is? Or-
Additional dialogue.
yeah,
replacement.
and then but he's got a flu this week. He doesn't sound anything like the guy on screen. So instead, they take the rest of the movie, they cobble together that voice, and they just type in "because this is America, sweetheart," and then they match the lips to do it, and then they get it.
Yeah. Oh, weird. I didn't know it was being used in the entertainment industry.
Yeah, I think they're keeping that a little bit quiet. It's highly restricted, but definitely being used.
Well, this is this is related to something that NVIDIA did. This was a paper that was I reported on a couple of weeks ago. NVIDIA has apparently machine learning AI that can make this image on the left. I believe it's the image on the left, which is a winter image of cars on the road and trees, and synthesize a photo of the exact same scene during the summer or in non-wintry conditions. The trees are full of leaves.
I mean,
the snow is
it
not on the ground.
transforms a bad winter photograph into a passable spring photograph.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
My thought with this has always been, as we see what it can do, we will know more about it, and we will know like the markings of this kind of work, right?
Mm-hmm.
I guess I've always been more on the side of, as shocking as it will be, we will always become more familiar with the tools, and there will always be some seam that people who work with this kind of technology will be able to ID. But that might just be blind faith on my part as things get more and more and more complex, unless we rely on machine learning to find out whether or not machine learning has been applied on these images and videos. But that Gal Gadot one, there's a reason why that got the kind of attention that it did, because that is kind of a more visceral idea of, oh, okay, now all of a sudden the idea of a celebrity sex tape or a nude leak or something like that. We've always had forgeries on that for as long as there's been Photoshop. But, what if it's very, very hard to tell? And at that point, like, do you own copyright on a machine learned amalgamation of your face? And if you do, how do you prove it? Do you prove it by people posting it with your name? But what if somebody says Wonder Woman bangs stepbrother and doesn't say the actress's name? Is that copyrightable, or is that just something that is, out there?
Yeah, it's a serious ethical concern, because at that point, the original person is no longer involved in the consent process. You can't
Certainly.
Well, and it brings up, do you own your likeness? And we have examples of people signing away their likenesses. I mean, in fact,
Sure.
we just watched The Last Jedi, where Carrie Fisher signed away her likeness, and the question was, do they continue to have her as a character in the series? And they could legally just keep on going, and
Right.
they might have to smooth things over behind the scenes, but legally, I don't know how much recourse there is, especially if somebody turns around and says, I am using my artistic license for a non-commercial product that is a tribute to how I feel about Wonder Woman or Gal Gadot or whatever. And I don't know that legally there would be much recourse unless they could show that, number one, it was damaging, and that it was done with intent to damage. Because
well, I think if it's this, like in the specific case of putting a celebrity on a porno video, I think that would be pretty. I wonder if that would be similar to like libel or like
what
like,
I think it would be defamation of character, which I know that libel and slander
Libel is written.
Yeah.
Libel is written and published, and slander and defamation are spoken or shown.
And I know that the standards for both of those are much, much tighter for public figures.
But if we're talking about something that's being posted online, which in terms of copyright you would consider a publishing, right? Then you would have it right there in pen and paper.
So sure, but what if it's not, it's not referred to as her?
Mm-hmm.
It's referred to as, Lasso Girl, or the writer of the invisible plane or something like that. There are ways,
or a possessor of classical symmetry and Greek nose profile, 34-year-old female brunette has sex with stepbrother.
I mean, like that's
it's one of those things that now is a it's an increasing thing because there's as like revenge porn and stuff like that, like the so-called fappening a few years ago. What that ushered in was an age of, if somebody has that leaked, the way that they could immediately get it taken down is by claiming copyright over it, saying that this is my video, I own it. And so it is not that you need to take it down because it is bad for me, because that is a harder a line to walk as a public figure. It is that I own it. You are using my footage without authorization. That is covered under the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. Pull it down now. And that has been the way that people have argued against this and gotten things pulled down, both big and small. This is a different story because technically, why is it different than somebody who just looks like you? You know, if you have, there's plenty of lookalikes that look like porn.
Think about any of the actors that made a living impersonating Barack Obama, and some of whom were hired on major American network television shows for magicians, where they tread the line of looking but not looking, saying but not saying, implying but not overtly doing. Man, this is going to be a legal wrangling mess, but I'm almost more interested in culturally what happens. Do you think we become totally jaded where none of us believe anything? Do you think that we lead to the existence of like a circle with a T in it, and like it's truth stamped, and that can't be duplicated, its lineage by whatever authority has been verified from principal photography and on?
Maybe, but we've always found ways to edit metadata like that. Like
I think that I do think that there will always be some scene. There will always be something that somebody who knows what to look for will be able to look for it in the same way that people who are professionals at Photoshop can look at expert Photoshops and be like, yeah, this is good, but you can tell if you see the bing bong and everything else, right?
Right.
What's interesting here is, you know, will you look at on the other side? Will there be such a prevalence of this and such a dispute on this is real, this isn't real, this isn't real, that if something actually real comes out, you can hide behind the specter of, no, this is machine learned. Like, this is obviously.
Well, and keep in mind, we're actually seeing, I think, a version of that emerging in American politics. To go to your wheelhouse, Justin, nowadays it's fairly automatic. Just as 20 years ago, receiving a forwarded email was immediately followed by going to Snopes.com and to point out the lineage of the obvious fakes and the trending stuff and so on. Nowadays, whenever a politician says certain things, it's very quick for me to go to PolitiFact that has their truthometer. And whether or not you agree with that institution, the point is some institution will fill the space and basically say, like Snopes, like PolitiFact, we're going to do the hard work to the best of our ability. We're going to tell you with a simple graph the amount of truth. And likewise, because keep in mind, we live in a world where everyone with an iPhone 10 is walking around with a studio that removes imperfections, that makes you look good with proper lighting and all that stuff. So even posting a Instagram photo of yourself, like there would be a place for that little 22nd century PolitiFact thing to say 10% enhanced, 30% enhanced. To the best of our ability, this is 70% fictitious based on an actual situation that happened, but with multiple shots composited to create this type of
So
you're describing like
vignette.
a ubiquitous truthy-meter, right?
Yeah,
For
and
imagery?
maybe not
a watchdog. There
Yeah.
will be a expert class that will emerge to stamp these kinds of things, and we will sort them out far faster than we might think now.
And that's also that's a plugin and a subscription that I might subscribe to today if it could analyze text and then just real quick say, imagine a plugin, and this is a different format, but it speaks to the thing. Like, let's say there was an app for $4.99 a month, and it had a plugin in Chrome, and everything you read at all times. Let's say you're in journalism, so you're concerned with the facts. It did stuff like analyze every block of text and say where it likely came from. So if you open up the Dallas Morning News, right, and you go through, and all of a sudden there's a block in orange, and just very faintly next to it, it says, word for word from AP release, and this, changed. The original quote was this, but it appears they've tightened it up for formatting and so on. I think we're already in a world where there's this need, but I don't know how it's going to be filled as things get more and more murky.
Well, we certainly see that now with academics, right? Like there's whole programs that are dedicated to preventing forgeries in a post Wikipedia era, when it was not just you're not just typing it out of a book encyclopedia, which back in the day used to be the way to do it. You could just copy and paste it right from.
Specifically, exactly how back in the day would that be done? Hypothetically.
Well, I once got 3 credits from Syracuse University because I was there at the beginning of Wikipedia on a pre-antiquities Roman mystery religions paper. It was one of those like you get 3 credits for one paper. Mm-hmm. Although I didn't copy and paste. I just looked at first. I was doing research and I was just Googling these things, and I'm like, what the hell is this site that just has all these answers and exactly everything that I'm looking for? Wiki what? And so
Wiki
yeah.
whack.
But yeah, no, that was. Now there are whole programs where you just professors can enter that stuff right in there, and it searches all available databases for either pre-written papers or Wikipedia, and it'll just show you gigantic blocks of text that are copied word for word. So certainly that tech is out there. It would just be a matter of adapting it to make it more appealing for an average consumer.
I will say it's an interesting idea. It reminds me in the dystopian element of it, of the recent re-reporting of the Chinese social credit score.
Oh, how much of that is super fake?
I don't know.
Because it's definitely that story. I haven't read the story yet, but the cover of Wired magazine this month is a front of a shirt wearing a lapel that says, "Hello, my score is blank," and it talks, certainly about that subject.
I think it's still real. I know it was a thing like a year ago when it was announced. Maybe that was 2 years ago. But it's back up again because I think it's being moved.
Because now it's true. That's what you do is you let it be fake news for a good 5 years, and once it's simmered long enough that everyone thinks it's fake news, you just pop out and do it.
From this USAtoday.com reporting that it will be mandatory for citizens by 2020. And this if you've missed it, it's the idea that they can create a social credit score based on the things that you buy and the things that you post online. And use that credit score to keep an eye out for shady individuals and affect your
I'll tell you what, I know, and I don't want to turn this into a political thing, so let's just kind of skate by it. But there was a lot of Sturm and Drang about, I think it was the EPA getting a list of words that they could not.
No. It was the CDC. They weren't allowed to use the word fetus or whatever.
And there was a lot of Orwellian. I don't know what inner office spat is happening at the CDC or between the White House and the CDC. That's Orwellian to me. Like the idea that Big Brother is literally tracking your every purchase and post online and will compile for you a reputational score is, that's scary. I think the idea that it was a voluntary thing that was pitched a few years ago, remember, and people reacted to the way that they did. Tells you everything that you need to know about how much we want a full quantification of our online movements.
Well,
whether or not it's inevitable.
I think there is a biological, and I want to speak about this totally. I don't want to speak about the ethics of whether or not this is a good or bad thing or whatever. And there are certainly a million situations I can imagine where you would end up with an unfairly low score that would have damaging effects on your life and stuff. But biologically speaking, we've talked on this podcast before about Dunbar's number, about the fact that our brains are built to handle the concept of a tribe about 150 people large. And the problem is, we live in a world where we encounter thousands of people every single day. And so as a result, our brain uses these heuristics where when I say Iran, you don't think of an entire country of people. You think of one meta-Iranian that you're thinking of, right? Or if I say Brazil, you think of one Brazilian. And so that's how you spread, your perceptions of people across the world. That's obviously not great. And I do think there's a place for technology to step in for little things like reputation. When you live in a village of 150 people, you know who the town drunk is because he woke up, pooped his pants on your front lawn one time ago. But in a world where all those characters are constantly recycling and you don't know who's who, they're constantly shifting. I don't know that some kind of, I mean, we already do that with credit reports, right? If you are renting to someone, it's not unheard of to get a credit history or a background or to call references or any of that stuff. Those are all proxies to do what we're built to do back when we were just, a tribe of monkeys.
But those are like financial solvency, right? That's like if you're late on your bills or something, where this Chinese system is like, hey, if this guy buys a lot of video games, that impacts him negatively because it's against whatever.
Sure. Well, and all it really does is
it's itemized on a cultural or social level, and not like a financial solvency element. Which
well, and that's the thing is instead of like there's a set of financial norms that anybody renting or extending credit to someone is cares about. What's your history for paying back? What's your history for how much you do? What's your history for falsifying or declaring bankruptcy or all that?
Sure.
Like really, all that does is expand it to everything. And so the question is less about what is the scope of it, but to me the question is more like what are norms? Like, if you're an older generation, you may think I don't want somebody who buys a whole bunch of video games handling my stuff, because in my mind somebody who buys a bunch of video games doesn't take reality very seriously and might steal from me or whatever. And if you're the government of China, then it's like what do you mean they're constantly visiting reddit.com? That's not normal the way I want normal to be, because that's a highly volatile place of political discourse. So I don't have an answer.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah. You guys have time for one last topic before we do picks?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, yeah,
let's
absolutely.
do it. Let's get in.
So let's talk on a neurological level, in basic terms. What happens when you're driving your car and you come up to an intersection and the light turns red?
Wait, sorry. What happens when the light turns red?
Yeah.
I stop.
Yeah. You stop. And maybe if you're feeling a little wacky with your friends, you can pull one of those fire drills where you run around the car.
But that's a more complicated process than just I see red, my foot goes on the brake, right? Because you're receiving visual information. That information is being processed in your brain.
Oh, got it. Yeah, we're describing the effect, not the process.
Right.
The process is that electricity is sent to a light, and a light-emitting diode.
Well, it's in the brain. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
So you would process that information. Different parts of your brain say, okay, so I'm seeing that's a red light. Red lights mean I need to stop my car. I'm in my car, so I'm going to hit the brake. So I'm going to take my foot, and I'm going to push my foot down on the brake and stop. Scientists in this reporting from the New York Times have found that they are able to inject information into monkeys' brains to bypass some of those internal processes.
Wait a minute. So instead of actually taking red wavelength of light, interpreting it through the optic nerve, and then having your brain do its operating system thing of perceiving it as red,
And processing it. And
instead it just
resulting
jumps to the conclusion where it's just like, don't bother to show the light, just tell them they're seeing red.
Basically, so the basic idea of this experiment that these scientists did is they set up monkeys to play a game when they had a button, a knob, and a lever in front of them, and when the button glowed, they pushed the button. When the knob glowed, you turn the knob, and when the lever glowed, you pull the lever. And so they conditioned them to play that game, and over time they turned the brightness of the glowing down. And for a while, that affected their accuracy, but eventually they were able to perceive lesser and lesser amounts of light. And by using a very light electrical stimulus on the monkeys' brains, they were able to have the monkeys play this game without any actual physical glowing of the buttons happening. They were able to either create, we don't exactly know because they're monkeys. They can't tell us what
we can't get their descriptions of the subjective experience of it.
But they accurately and with the same speed as playing the game legitimately were able to do the correct inputs based on these electrical stimuli.
Well, I think this is one of the most insane things that I get a little head spinning when I think too hard on it. But as I understand it from the stuff I've read, what we perceive as free will and what's actually happening around us is essentially we're manufacturing a consistent narrative that sometimes may involve children making noises. Callie, if you want to stay, you have to be super quiet, okay? But that actually, I don't know, like our brains appear to be like an arguing bunch of diplomats, and then an action is taken, and then after the fact, the narrative is smoothed over by what we perceive as our conscious brain as having been a rational decision, when in fact, so often, I mean, think about if you've ever bit the head off of someone who didn't deserve it because you were hungry. You
Verbally.
didn't think I'm hungry. Yes. You didn't think I'm hungry until like days later when you look back on it. In the moment, you're like, no, this guy's a jerk and he's got what's coming. And
You're the sum of your context at any given moment.
Correct, right? And yet we're also built to believe that we're responsible for everything. That's the weird part. Even though there's no we. There's only this weird soup of a feedback loop.
Yeah. And so the initial idea behind this technology is that it could help people who have had strokes and have parts of their brain damaged and are not able to make all those neuro links between the different parts of their brain. But it also creates some long-term questions of like, if we have a sophisticated enough system to light various parts of your brain, could you give people fake visual information, fake audible information, such that they truly did believe that they heard that raw data, and act accordingly?
I mean, I think that's a fascinating idea. If even you were able to change one small detail in a story or fabricate one memory, like there's already ways. I guess the question would be: is there any way to do it that would be more effective than the ways that we can already do it? We can already stage something, right? We can already make somebody believe that they saw something that they probably didn't see by kind of gaslighting in a more traditional sense.
Or performing a magic trick, right? I mean, like illusionists do that all the time.
Or is this performance enhancing? Is this giving you? Is this hot wiring your brain to understand cues faster or more instinctually? Like, is this something that people would want if it gave athletes a more focus on the ball or something, right? That you are able to marshal your reflexes just that much faster because you are disregarding signal to noise.
Well, and that's interesting because the broad strokes of the way that this experiment are being carried out is that it's not faking raw data, it is injecting information into that neurological path.
Well, let's
so if you say had a system that could see a red light and know this means that the person needs to go, and if you're talking about an athlete where time is a super important factor, you could skip if you had a
wait a minute. Okay, so all of a sudden
camera,
you're saying like don't bother to put any lights on stoplights. Instead, put up we'll call it a green screen, like a gray block, and just let everybody perceive the appropriate color for where they are and the velocity they're going and so on. So like if you're in the intersection, perceive it as green. If you are within 500 yards of the exit, perceive it as yellow. But if you're past the cutoff where it would be inappropriate for you to get there, have them before they get there perceive it as red. So everybody's perceiving a different color at a different time, and so that would eliminate, and this is a very, very small example, but that would eliminate the brief cognitive dilemma that we have when you're going 60 miles an hour and then the light goes from green to yellow. You have to do the math of how fast am I going, how far up am I out, how long do I estimate it's going to be yellow, and so on. Yeah. But then all of a sudden, the computers handle that. And to go a step farther, think about what we were just talking about with reputational scores. Like, if you can inject, what if you subscribe to a service that would inject you with vague feelings about people? So in other words, it would enhance your intuition, because right now your brain is constantly scanning your environment around you, looking for predators and so on. Yeah. But what if instead you subscribe to a service that basically fed you instincts based on, we'll say, credit score for right now. So as you walk around, you're like, I don't trust that guy. And you don't know why, you just don't. But the reason why is because the service that you subscribe to has injected you with those neural pathways, because this guy's had 4 bankruptcies and 3 divorces. And so you essentially get like a plasmid upgrade to your brain wherever you go.
And now we have used technology to reinforce caste systems, which we never see.
Wow. Yeah. Geez. The implicate today. This is a very specific.
It's a big heady episode. Heady
episode, man. I'll tell you what. And to think we just started off with Lance Boyle.
Well, I think there are a lot of implications of society that we posed here today. You guys want to do picks real quick? Justin, you got a pick for us?
Yeah, I'm gonna pick the newest Star Wars. I'm sure that there will be much discussion on many platforms, including, I'm sure, a far longer review when Andrew is again on the show. Mm-hmm. But man, was I blown away by that movie. I went to the movie and I kind of expected one thing, and what I got was nothing short of remarkable. I think it's an achievement, and it made me like love Star Wars on a level that I kind of thought was sort of gone forever. I kind of think that they had sort of codified what it meant to be a Star Wars movie in a way that kind of felt more like a superhero kind of trope, and this totally shattered that for me. I'm sure there'll be many words spoken about it, but man, I was over the moon for it.
Yeah. Did you like Last Jedi, Brian?
Loved it. Congratulations, the rest of the world. You've now experienced what I experienced 20 years ago reading the Star Wars novels. It turns out it's a bigger universe than you thought. And the only way to go into that universe is if you stop obsessing about the same family of 12 characters constantly. And both overtly and sneakily, they made it very, very clear that this movie was an indication that it's time to stop obsessing about those movies that came out 30 years ago. And I couldn't be happier. I loved the set pieces. I loved going to the casino. I love the wacky cast of characters. I loved the opening vignette, which, by the way, I full on cried at, even though, yes, I knew it was just telling a well-familiar story about the noble person who sacrifices themselves for the greater good in World War II, all the way to the point of having an exact duplication of the bomber capsule, gunner capsule or whatever. Didn't care. Loved all of it. This whole movie was about subverting expectations, and there was a lot to be broken apart. If you hate this movie because it feels like a rejection of the earlier movies, then congratulations. You felt the feeling I felt when Disney announced that all the books don't count. All the books don't count. That's all legends. The only thing that counts are the prequels and the original trilogy. Mm-hmm. That was a deeply painful thing because I really loved all that stuff. But eventually I came to understand that along with that comes the ability for them to tell new stories that there's no way for me to know what's coming next. No amount of having read the books on the side would give you an unfair advantage of knowing what comes next. And that is a real gift that they gave to us. And now they are giving that gift to everyone else by announcing in this movie it's no longer going to be about that Skywalker family, even though it's called the Skywalker Saga. It's going to be about the rest of the universe. They didn't buy the Skywalker family; they bought the Star Wars universe.
Cool. Yeah, Bryce, did you say? I know you're not a big Star Wars man.
Yeah, I didn't see it. I feel like there's a chance I might go see it over the holidays with the family, but I just never jumped in, and I think the last one didn't hook me. So I think there are other movies I'd rather see before.
You know what? Actually, your opinion on this one might be the one that I would value the most. And I know I said that as a Force Awakens, and
That's
I did enjoy it
Yeah.
for that. But you're the only one who has only experienced the Force Awakens,
Right.
and now can tell me objectively, without and dispassionately, how this one differs and which one is definitely the better movie. And I will say this much: from your reaction of Force Awakens, I think you'll enjoy this one much more.
Yeah, if I do go see it, I'd probably go re-watch Force Awakens because it was just a while ago, and I mean it was 2 years ago.
Sure.
Right?
I would say really Last Jedi, and part of what I love the most about it, I think, is part of the divisive nature. I mean, we should state that this is a divisive movie for some element of the fandom, is that really all The Last Jedi takes from Force Awakens are these characters. Like, I think they are
Really?
true to the characters, but beyond that, everything that you might have thought, like, all right, next movie, we're going to get this and this and this, and we're going to find out this, and that's going to happen. And I really hope that when this person gets that thing, that this reaction, put that out of your mind.
I just realized, I think you'll be very surprised. I think you specifically will be very surprised at some of the twists they take on this one.
Well, given that I will be producing tonight's extra long episode of Spoiler Time,
You'll get to hear all about
Last
them.
Jedi. Yeah, I'll hear all about it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And if you want more of that talk, I'll be on the Spoiler in Time, and I'll be on Unfriend Me tomorrow. We are doing, if you didn't think The Last Jedi was awesome, then unfriend me. So we are taking live calls. We are opening up this internet bar fight and letting it spill out into the streets.
Yeah, cordkillers.com and frogpants.com to find both of those shows, right?
Yep.
Brian, you have a pick?
Yeah, my pick is a book that my daughter's reading right now.
Okay.
It's the first book of the Timothy Zahn Heir to the Empire series.
Oh,
Penny loved The Last Jedi. And when I said, I was like, oh, it was a lot like the books. And she's like, there are books? I was like, oh, yeah. And in fact, the audiobook for the Timothy Zahn trilogy is really great. They got the characters. They do, the voices sound great. They have the John Williams score and everything. It's great. And she's like, oh, okay. And I was like, oh, yeah. And I guess it's in my Audible library if you ever want to listen. Next day, walk in, and I'm listening to Grand Admiral Thrawn talk to Admiral Pelion about the Ysilamari in the ship, and I'm like, oh, I got her. So Penny's falling into that rabbit hole, and I'm enjoying listening along with her. Those are great books, and they're only apocryphal. They don't line up with the movies. If you're a perfectionist,
Yeah.
keep that in mind.
Very cool. I have a pick of something I've been playing recently. And it's a game that came out, 2011. 2011 was when this PC version came out. And I think when it came out, it was pretty well received for a lot of the technology and the graphics fidelity that it had. And I am talking about L.A. Noire. Do you guys?
Ooh, are you playing the game or the VR version or on the Switch?
So I'm replaying. So they did release a new remastered version for the PS4 and the Switch and the Xbox, but I've had it on the PC for a year or two now, and that's got all of the case DLC stuff like the new versions had. So I was like, I've got it on PC, so I'll just play it here. And that game is really good. It has got some issues. Basically, you play Cole Phelps, who is a policeman in 1947 in Los Angeles, and you are working your way up, and you're using your expert deduction skills and crime solving powers to try to make the streets of LA safe for people. And along the way, you discover not just all of the various cases, but also these larger plans that are in action and the different forces that are working against you. And it's one of those things where it's kind of a convenient storyline of like, oh, this person's involved, and they're this person to you, okay. But I do think that it offers a compelling look at a character who is very justice oriented. The fact that it's built on, for the time, the Rage engine, which is what GTA was based off of, but you have a game that is almost tonally the exact opposite of GTA.
Yeah,
right?
it's about truth and justice and sticking by the rules and doing the right thing.
Yeah, well,
which is weird
yeah.
when you're driving, because all I want to do is just break all the rules and run over people, and it's
Yeah.
like, no,
You always
knock it off.
You get a little warning. Hey, you are an LAPD officer, and your duty is to uphold the safety of the citizens. Like, to the point where even if you are driving erratically, but maybe not hitting anybody, your partner will say, "Hey, I don't hear the siren," because you should have the siren on if you're going to be driving like a maniac. I think it definitely has flaws in the way the original versions came out, right? Like the basic premise of the game is that you do a lot of investigating and interrogating people, and you have options truth, doubt, and lie. And when you say someone is lying, you have to give evidence to sort of point out their contradiction. But that system doesn't work great. It doesn't make a lot of
from what
logical
little
sense.
I've played, and I did a couple hours of playing on the Rage Select podcast. It really felt like just rolling a dice. Like you're blindfolded and you got a dart. You're like, you're lying,
Yeah.
and then
Well, but part of that goes with the facial recognition. You're supposed to read cues off of people, and they're kind of looking away, maybe. But the problem with that system is that it doesn't make a lot of logical sense. Doubt and lie. The difference between those two is not the same as truth, and it's weird. So apparently in the new version, and this is the way the script was originally written, those options are good cop, bad cop, and accusation, which in a lot of cases makes a lot of that stuff make a lot more sense.
Accusation would imply that you have something in your pocket that can back up your claim, whereas
Meanwhile,
bad cop is
like-
bluff, and then good cop is bluff in another direction.
Yeah, and I so you're able to, like, you don't need a patch to do that if you're playing the old version of the game. You could just think, oh, okay, maybe I just need to be the bad cop here.
Right.
And it really generally works out. It's cool because you can kind of think of it as a very elaborate adventure game where you can miss clues, and that can affect your score, and it can affect your ability to finish these cases. But I think it's not bulletproof in getting you from point A to point B logically. But I think it's pretty cool, and now that it's been re-released, there are a lot more options to play it. So that's L.A. Noire from Rockstar and Team Bondi.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, guys, it's just a very typical episode of Weird Things. Just me, you, and the listeners. But until next time, it's been weird.
Wow.
Wow.
Cool. Anybody need a break?
Yeah, I do. Let me real quick bow out of this request for
Do you-
to do a lecture.
Do you guys want to just... What do you want to do for spoiling time? Because I know not spoiling time, after things. Y'all mentioned maybe talking about Patreon stuff. Andrew posited maybe we talk about Star Wars, but if you guys think it's worth waiting for him to talk about that later.
I mean, listen, I think that there's going to be plenty of Brian and I talking about Star Wars on Cord Killers, and I'm sure we're probably going to get into some jokes about it on Night Attack. So I would prefer to wait for Andrew to talk Star Wars.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I think we could do a real quick Patreon thing and knock that out if or otherwise we can just keep it short and bag it for next week.
Cool, no worries. Let's see, did we... this one's about writing. We'll hold on to that next week. Yeah, let's see. I'm gonna take a look at our show bit. Thank you, everybody who's in the chat and submitted some show titles. See some of these. A show without vein. How is it that every time we like a show without vein is a joke on a show without merit, which is a joke
Exactly.
title for Cord Killers that we've never used because what else? And I think that's like a DTNS joke whenever Tom's not there either. Oh man, a pearl necklace for Earth is pretty solid. Lance Boyle's pretty good. Yeah, okay. We'll pick one of these. Oh no! I had no idea from our guest in the middle of the show.
What was that?
I had no idea that the kids were unsupervised.
Oh, jeez.
I guess I should figure out a pick for after things, huh?
So yeah, you got any, when are you leaving for Christmas there, Bryce?
Sunday, Christmas Eve.
Oh, you're doing the Santa flight, huh?
Yeah. Well, it's during the day, so I should arrive in the afternoon. Or rather, it's in the morning, and then I arrive in the afternoon. So yeah, and then the Cord Killers will be off those 2 weeks, and then y'all can do Weird Things in Night Attack without me. When's your journey? You're going to Japan this week? Next week?
The 28th.
Okay, so next Thursday.
Next Thursday, yeah. So yeah, we'll have to bank Night Attack, but I'll be back for the week after that. Like that's literally when we get back is on the Tuesday morning. So
Okay. You had some time to readjust.
I gotta bank a few episodes of the old podcast, so I don't gotta do them out there in Japan.
Old Japan. And super shout out to Andrew Main for helping pull those stories.
Oh yeah. No, he's got big things, big things on his plate.
In Hollyweird.
Yeah.
Hollyweird things. Oh, Hollyweird things. I don't think that's anything, but turn of phrase. Gambling Man recommends putting Kepler in charge of the kids. That seems like a bad idea.
Holy crap, Callie got big. She's already she's morphing into a human instead of like a baby.
Instead of a tiny goblin.
Yeah, no, she like her face is kind of like gotten human shaped
got
instead of just
features
that
now.
like adorable baby roundness.
Yeah. Man. Gosh, yes, man, boy, yesterday we went and had a really big modern rogue shoot.
Yeah, I saw you guys were like at like some like Mongolian horse ranch or something.
Yeah. So we went to this ranch, or just like a field, basically, about an hour and a half out of town. And yeah, we had a bunch of experts who are into mounted archery. And
Oh wow.
and as a part of it, you know, they knew various parts of the history of mounted archery and how it related to the Mongols.
Yeah.
And its use across the Middle East and stuff. It was really cool, and yeah, and 3 of them came out fully decked out in gear. But it was a pretty hard shoot because it was like, you know, first they learn archery, and archery's like the specifics of what you do for mounted archery, and then they probably spent like an hour to an hour and a half learning how to ride a horse, but you have to be able to ride a horse with no hands because your hands are using the bow. So it's you have like a very specific like lower body set of actions that you do with the horse, and that took a while, and it's this big open field, so I've got the audio bag, and we've got all these wireless mics, but they only have a certain range, so I'm just like running up and down the field just to keep people in range. Meanwhile, there's actual horse poop literally everywhere. So it was tiring, but it was pretty fun, and you'll be able to see how it turned out on the Modern Rogue very soon.
Oh
Pretty
my
soon.
gosh. Yeah, that was a hell of a day.
Were you sore when you got back?
Oh my god. Yeah, and sunburned. Both of
You
us.
ended up sunburned?
Yeah, no, and like sunburned. You ever have one of those sunburns where you wake up the next day feeling kind of sick, because just everything's achy
totally.
or whatever?
Sure.
That's
Where,
that.
was it your face?
Yeah, even though it was just my face, but I mean,
You seem to have gotten mostly over it.
yeah, I mean,
Though we have
if
a
you see
purple.
the,
Oh yeah.
you know, you can see I'm
You got a little bit of a line.
a little lobstery.
The JC Calhouns, can they ride better than Roy Moore? they were slower, but
Eventually, man, that's the betrayal. My deepest regret is, only in the last 5 minutes did I start to really feel like I was getting it with the horse,
yeah.
because it is like a bit of an ESP connection. And
I also think that there was just a bit of like them recognizing you were getting it, and you guys are probably good enough to get going to the next bit.
yeah,
You think?
yes. Well, it's like, hey, you got it. Don't take time to celebrate having got it. Go.
Yeah.
Although I rode a horse to gallop speed, which I had never ever done before, and it was fun and scary and great.
they're
Dude,
all
I'm sure that episode's gonna rule. I love what you guys are doing there. It's just like you guys are bringing like television quality. Like that's awesome.
Yeah, man. I'm really curious to see where we go next with all that. Because we're for the first time starting to get. And granted, it's the end of the year. It's the end of the quarter. The economy is good, so it shouldn't be. And we're now over a year established on the new channel, so it shouldn't be a surprise that that there's quite a few advertising opportunities. But
Yeah.
but like for the first time, there's more of those than there are available slots in the rest of the year, which is an exciting
Nice.
question of like, well, where next do we go?
All right, you guys want to do after things?
Yeah. Did we have a particular angle we wanted to go on this one?
I think just keep it short and maybe talk about Patreon again.
Yeah, we could talk about Patreon. Here, I got a. Let's land on Patreon. I got a quick, short thing.
Okay,
Cool.
I'll bring us in. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the After Things podcast. I am, of course, your host every week with the most, Bryce Castillo.
Yeah, and to be fair, you do have the most Bryce
I
Castillo
am the
of
most
anybody.
Bryce Castillo out of
That's
anyone.
true. Yeah, that's a fact. No one come and challenge that fact because you can't.
Of course, that's Justin Robert Young,
Ah.
and we got Brian Brushwood here in studio.
Hello, beautiful people.
So what's going on this week, guys?
We shot a Modern Rogue episode yesterday, and we learned, I guess we could say, mounted archery, horseback archery, like the Mongols of old, and it largely went great. But I had one moment. I woke up this morning feeling guilty, like really guilty, and I was just stuck in my brain about it, and I couldn't let go of it because in the course of shooting that day, I realized I didn't even misspeak or say anything bad. I just realized I had spoken something in a way that it could be open to misinterpretation. Because and you'll see this on the episode, but this guy, our contact for learning this art,
The archery expert.
correct. And we went all day, and then when it was just before shooting, he wanted to do his bit in character, and I was like, "Oh, what's that?" And he has he has this amazing look, and he looks like he speaks with the Eastern.
Yeah, for those of you who don't follow Brian on social media, at Schwood on Twitter, and then I don't know if you guys did anything on Instagram, but there are some great pictures of what these guys looked like. It was very, very much in character.
Yeah.
In traditional Mongol garb, I believe, right?
Yeah, and this guy is he's the flying Hun in circles all over,
Well, he teaches-
Renaissance fairs,
Yeah,
and
he teaches kids, and he stays in character for all of that.
right, and this was sort of a last minute X factor because we're fans of camp on the Modern Rogue, but we like to couch things as this is camp, this is science or whatever, and all of a sudden in the moment I didn't know how it was going to go, and so being an extrovert. Extroverts tend to talk out their problems, right? They start talking and then they realize the truth as the words are coming out. So I was trying to figure out well, here's what I don't want is the Modern Rogue audience who is accustomed to being experts. I don't want them distracted by wondering if this is a real character or not. So if there's some way to fold it, and he said, no, I've done this at high schools and it plays really, really well. And ultimately, we decided to go for it, and it did. It was great. It was obviously the right call. I was worried about nothing.
He even stayed in character when we were shooting our second part of that episode, where he was not even mic'd up for.
Yes,
because he knew we used that raw footage for various things. So
That's right.
He
That's
stayed
right.
in character the whole time.
And it was great. It was great.
Yeah.
But I realized in talking it out, and here's the funny part about one word. I can't remember if the way I would like to believe I said everything was, well, I'm worried because we have an expert, but if they think you're a cartoon character, then that's going to be distracting. But I don't know if I said if. I might have, in the alternate reality, said, well, I mean, we need an expert and you're a cartoon character. And I don't know which one of those things I said, and it ate at me all day.
Really?
And
wow. My own equally as old memory of the situation as yours. I don't believe you said the latter. I think you said if. Like, I think you were pretty clearly like trying to
I am
lay
worried
out.
about it looking like this. Not that I was saying that, right?
you are fine, expert person who is an expert and is expertly teaching us how to be experts as much as we can.
Right.
But I don't know. The unproven quantity is this character that you are going to put on to, put out the exact same information. That maybe
Yes.
that'll muddle the message.
Well, and so it I'm not going to say I woke up sweating bullets and agonizing over the issue, but I will say that I thought about, like, the fourth or fifth time I thought about it today. I was driving home from the gym, and I just I verbally texted. I said, hey, S lady. That's who I'm going to call her, so I don't activate anyone's phone.
Okay.
Yes. Hey, S lady, text Jason Murphy and ask if he's got so-and-so's contact information, and he did. And I got home, and I just fired off an email saying, man, it was great. You're great. I can't wait for the episode. I've been killing myself because I don't know if I misspoke. If
Wow.
I think I said this phrase, but if you heard cartoon character, know that what I meant was, I forget the way I phrased it, but basically like charming and super competent, bigger than life personality, But just firing that off just gave me such a sense of relief, because my guess is that it was never an issue to begin with, and my guess is we communicated effectively, because you seem to feel like everything was fine.
That's wasn't a big part of the day very much.
Correct. But it's a testament to how great the day was.
Sure.
That was the only thing I could think of the next morning.
Well, and like even that part of that conversation, that was not like the most. Like, I remember there was I don't know if it was just a hypothetical or if y'all were trying to block out scripting, but I know there were a few minutes spent on like how do we like very explicitly be like, oh yeah, hey, this is the gag, and he drops character for a second so people know it's just a gag. That didn't end up happening. But even that, I think that whole thing.
Well, because
like,
what happened is the moment we started recording, it was just like, oh, this is great. It's going to be great. It's perfect. It's the exact right amount. But
I think.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I didn't know if you were going to another.
Well, what I was going to say is, I guess the specifics of handling yourself with composure and professionalism, or attempting to, on the set of a thing, notwithstanding, I know this much. I know that personally, it felt so good to send that email, because I didn't have permission to feel like I handled it well. I didn't have permission to know that everything was okay, but I did have permission to know that I took action on something that was niggling in the back of my brain, and that it was just gone. And that's the email that I was sending seconds before we went live on the Weird Things podcast.
Yeah.
There is if you would like to be a good teammate, and by teammate I mean in anything, in work, in a romantic relationship, in a prospective industry that you want to get into, as a friend, if you want to be a good part of a system, communicate as effectively as you can, and that is much easier spoken than it is executed, but a lot of that is introspection and coupled with modeling what you believe is happening outside of your own head and understanding and weighting that accordingly, and then trying to reconcile what you believe versus what you think other people might believe through effective communication. That will be totally that is 90%. If you want to be a good leader, couple exactly that with arbitrary decision making. Literally just picking between A or B and then communicating that decision and reflecting back what everybody thinks on how that is going. Like, that to me is in a kit you could get sent to your house, how to make your life better.
So
tomorrow.
wait a minute. This is amazing. So you're saying that the qualities of great leadership aren't in the quality of decisions being made, but in the reflection therein and the communication with those you're working with as to why you got there. And
Absolutely.
whether it's right or wrong. Like, it's fine to make lots of wrong decisions as long as everyone feels like they were understood and had a piece of the experience.
The idea that you are going to beat the random number generator that is life by successfully guessing all the different decisions that you are going to face in life is foolhardy. Like, the one thing that you are an effective leader does is don't waste time. So just say, hey, we're going here. Anybody else got any opinion on why we shouldn't be going here? Because I'm saying we're going here based on the available data that I have, right? Boom. So you do that. And now if it's a bad decision, you pull back, right? And that's part of communication. That's part of leadership. And I think that very often we get way too wrapped up in the idea of, I have to plan out to the 19,000th different contingency, to the point where you're literally just writing fan fiction in your own head about your life that is could be about as viable as actual fan fiction. Like, sure, it's cool that you're creatively thinking of things, and when you get down that road, I guess possibly it'll be exactly correct because you've holodeck modeled everything perfectly. But like you said, Brian, I mean, look, you made a decision to communicate that, and now if this video is a hit, horse archery, the sequel and the threequel will be great because you have maintained a relationship based on a decision that you made.
Codes from Home calls it the Jack Conte method, which might be the best segue ever.
Best segue. All right.
So last week we talked about Patreon's new fee structure. We talked a little bit about what the numbers look like for patrons to, pledge. If you're pledging $1, you pledge. And on there's not a date on this post, but last week, since last week's episode,
I haven't read it. What can we get a preview?
The headline is "We messed up. Period. We're sorry, and we're not rolling out the fees change" by Jack Conte. Basically, they're not doing it. They said, "Hey, we messed up. Here. Your feedback has been crystal clear. The new payment system disproportionately impacted $1 to $2 patrons. We have to build a better system for them. Aggregation is highly valued, and we underestimated that. Fundamentally, creators should own their business decisions with their fans, not Patreon. We overstepped our bounds and injected ourselves into that relationship against our core belief as a business."
So where do you think that, how bruised do you think Patreon's reputation is as a result of having made this mistake? Because I'm not hearing nearly as many bells of support being rung in for them doing the very difficult thing and swallowing the pill of failure as I did, bells of damnation that were gonged.
Yes, and let's keep in mind, Patreon made that announcement and then rolled it back within a calendar week. In terms of business days, it was Thursday it rolled out to patrons. Friday they dealt with backlash. Saturday, Sunday, non-business days, but presumably they're working on it, right? Monday they say nothing. Tuesday they say nothing. Wednesday by, I think, 9 o'clock in the morning, they rolled out that email. So effectively it was 4.5 business days, and probably assume that those last two on some level were them building out the tools that they were going to use to reverse the decision, which were emails that they sent out to every patron that allowed you to very easily resub to accounts that you had either adjusted your pledges or canceled
Yeah.
using your old sub history.
So they had to build the time machine reset button
They
before
had
could push it
to
out.
build the We Effed Up machine so they could send that out to people.
And I think also you had a bunch of people who were still on the fence, who were like upset about it and were sort of waiting for a reversal to happen, because today would have been the day that these new fees went into effect.
Yes.
And I think for as many people said, I'm deleting my pledges, and there were plenty of people who were still left to turn on that leaf of like, you know what, I've sat on it and it's not acceptable for me coming December 18. You know,
How many of the people do you think who pulled their pledges to us or whoever else in protest of Patreon immediately upon hearing that they were right resubbed? Like, what percentage of those people? Because it seems to me some number of those people were just looking for an excuse, and this is a morally indignant moment that they can get one extra frappe latte chino, and then some number of them would actually did give up in protest, but then upon their reversal just weren't overly inspired to go back and sign up again. We're like, well, you're still jerks. You know, it's like you hide behind that
it's damaging
part.
to the Patreon brand. For those people, their trust in Patreon is at least badly bruised, right?
Yeah.
You know, once bitten, twice shy. It will take time for some people who feel like Patreon is not making good decisions to come back and feel trusted in the system.
Well, and so I guess my question is, do you, what percentage of people do you think are in that third category of people who are like, well, I almost was really mad at you, Patreon, but now I'm back because you guys did the right thing. You truly are a trustworthy company and a good steward.
Here's the thing. Patreon doesn't necessarily have to be loved right now. They have to be a trustworthy bank. That is their job. Like, they can run ads like any other bank, highlighting all the cool things that the bank does and small business loans. And, hey, do you want a deck for your house? Get a loan from us, the bank. Like, they can do that, but they don't need to be warm and fuzzy. They need to be on time, trust my credit card with them, pay out the people that are supposed to be paid out. So ultimately, I think they're going to be fine. My jury Patreon is a little higher than it was when at the beginning of all this. And I would suspect that part of it was that for a lot of people that were kind of silent on this was also just a reminder, hey, Patreon's a thing. A lot of people are talking about Patreon. Patreon's screwing up. Oh, wait, Patreon's better. You know, I should subscribe on Patreon. Like, it was just a lot of brand kind of awareness about these tools. So I think that they would have been damaged had they rolled out the fees. I think that at that point you would have seen more of a watershed that would not be tied to, hey, I'm doing this in protest. It would be, I'm doing this because I don't want to pay 35 cents for literally everything that I do. This substantially increases what I'm doing, including, I don't know, throw his name out there in the streets, but I think we all know that there are certain people that we know that spread their money around a lot. And theoretically, at one point when they walked into the Patreon office, he got a standing ovation because they know that he spends a lot and he was going to have to adjust his stuff. So it wasn't just a $1 to $2 thing. It was the whales were like, whoa, this is not a cool thing for them to do. I think if that would have happened, that would have been something, because now you're damaging, now it's the bank's reputation. That's the money thing that all of a sudden that damages brand loyalty.
I wonder how much of the backlash was the result of the curious phrasing that they had, because the announcement was not, we're now increasing all the fees, we're charging per item, and most of you are going to pay 20 to 30% more. The headline that they pushed was, Patreon creators now get 95% of your pledge. And look at us, only taking 5%. We're great. We're Patreon. Oh, by the way, you'll have to pay 30% or 30 cents per transaction, which can result in up to 1/3 of your entire, pledge going to us, or going to not the creators.
Yeah, I mean, if you are trying to sell it, right? And if you've got all these other less attractive features that one of the updates before they reversed all of this came about, which was like bringing out charge up front and bringing up anniversary subscription stuff. If you say, hey, that's why we're doing it, this thing that doesn't affect about half of our campaigns and people are mostly getting by fine without, what if instead it's this side effect is you get a higher amount of the pledge?
This is one of the weird things about Patreon is you have one clubhouse and you have two types of citizens of this clubhouse. Sure. You have people who want to use Patreon because they want to unlock the insider access on whatever. They want the Jeep Jops and the Cleep Clops from that are being offered that are hidden behind the paywall. And then you have another type of person, which is like me, which is like, I like you. I may never get around to watching your content again. But I want you to have 5 months forever until I just want to every night go to sleep knowing that I'm helping to make your thing continue out there. And in this case, the squeaky wheel is the people who provide content. They're like, hey man, what's up with all these freeloaders pledging a thing, getting all the inside content and then backing out, it sucks. And so that was the squeaky wheel. That's what they responded to. And what we saw was the backlash of like, hey man, that's dumb and I don't care about it. I just like going to sleep every week knowing that I chipped in on this thing.
Here's ultimately what they had to learn the very hard way. Patreon is a platform that has many different business models to it. And they are fundamentally different, and they have grown through natural growth to offer new and different permutations using the tools that Patreon has given. So to fundamentally change, we're changing this whole baseline, radically disrupted a lot of stuff that had already been set up. And I think that's ultimately what that last thing was like, oh, wow. Like we just looked at all of our support tickets and we're like, man, what is the biggest support problem that we have from creators? It's people are freeloading off my stuff. They're jumping my paywall and they're scooting out before they pay. How am I supposed to make any money on this cockamamie scheme? Mm-hmm. And from patrons, it was, I don't know. Oh yeah, the double charging thing. Like,
double billing at the end of the month.
I'm subbing on the 29th. Next thing you know, I'm getting charged on the 1st. Hey, I'm not made of money. Patreon, what the hell? And so they're like, guess what? We fixed it. And then they realized, oh my God, there are so many more support tickets complaining about these changes because there was a whole class of people that were living very happily with these kinds of tools. And the people that are emailing and calling are raising very good issues about promises that were made and now are not being upheld because they tried to do it. So what I assume they are going to do is they're going to roll out stuff like they've said, but it is going to be a part of a suite of options that you will have to curate your community. And that the idea is, here are things you can do, tools you can employ. Would you like 95% no matter what to know exactly what your number is? Great. Here's a way that we can make that happen for you.
Yeah.
In the same way.
Yeah. Oh no, finish.
Yeah. They've done stuff for us, which, look, that RSS feed where you can automatically do stuff, there is nothing better like it on the market. It is indispensable for me to offer a pay tier for my content. Like, that's just that.
Yeah.
By the way, real quick, breaking news, just got an email. Apparently that email that I felt really good about at the beginning of the show, sent to blank dot blank and not blank underscore blank. So random guy just got an apology email.
Wow. Oops.
So new clarification email has been sent, and so
there we go.
I think Patreon, it's kind of the Yelp thing, right? When you go to Yelp, you kind of want to know about if a restaurant's good, but you probably don't go to review a restaurant unless it's really bad, right? And like,
there's an inherent bias in that regard,
right? And then it's even harder because when there's like non-restaurant listings on Yelp, it's like, who is rating a hotel room? It's going to be the people who had really bad experiences.
Yeah,
and so it's
Except for Brian at that hotel room on the Brooklyn Bridge, apparently.
What do you mean? I was in love with it. It's pretty amazing.
Rate a thumbs up. You're like, oh my god, it's 5 stars.
But there are ways to solve those things that are not wide sweeping, and I think I think doing what their original plan was would have solved those issues in one fell swoop, rather than creating even more bespoke features for people, whether it's letting people choose whether they want the fees to be handled from patrons, whether they want to do charge up front, whether they want to do anniversary charging, or just like someone on Twitter made a mock-up of like, hey, what if on the subscription page it said, hey, today's the 25th. Do you want to defer your pledge until the first of the month so you don't get double billed? Like, there are more holistic ways to solve those problems that aren't sweeping financial.
Well, and I think this is a
ways.
testament to the fact that Patreon had a bit of an identity crisis. They didn't realize, they thought that they were being told who they were, but and they're like, oh, guys, we've been thinking about this all wrong. Look at all these emails. 95% of the emails are saying that apparently we're a content services company and we're a gateway that allows people to keep stuff precious. We're a bank vault that keeps insider stuff insider. And then they announce the change. They're like, now everybody's got a key and we can keep track of who comes when and where. And then they found out. Then they got the deluge of like, oh, no. We're a financial services company. We're a tool.
Also,
to be used.
Like those fees were only step one of this multi-step process of like there was a charge up front and anniversary charging weren't in those original updates. That came the next day or the day after, and it's like maybe if you spelled out that longer vision, maybe things would have been different. But also like you can't just it's like when you're just given the immediate short-term goal of we're going to change fees and we're going to give creators more, that's the universe of what people perceive as what's happening and not any long-term vision. And it's tough because like I've had some support emails with Patreon of like, hey, it would be great if I had a manager account, and instead of logging into the 4 different Patreons that I access every week, I could log into my personal one where I have an account and my own campaign and just say, hey, I need to act as cord killers. I need to do this.
Yeah, that's long overdue. Those are the features that this is where they should be working on.
And what I was told is like, we would love to do that, and that's not on our roadmap. And we'll do it one day, but that's not what we're focusing on. And if they're focusing on charge up front and monthly anniversary stuff, then that's great, but none of that helps us, and the immediate first step actively hurts us.
Well, and I could see that you and our whole operation is a bit of an outlier in that. I mean, how many people have 4 distinct properties all managed by one team member that does all that? Patreon's strength is that it's individuals creating individual stuff and being supported by other individuals. So it is a bummer, but I can also understand where they're coming
Twitter
from.
doesn't do it either, and I get it.
Right? Although TweetDeck is a pretty good approximation of that, right?
The Twitter app has it, but there's just too many taps to it. Anyway, it's just a weird thing, and you always want a big company like this that you're using very integrally to make things for you. Right. When there are all types of users that they need to cater to. I do appreciate that they turn this around relatively quickly.
I mean, that's the problem. Is that this is welcome to 2017, right? Because they literally flipped it. A major financial business decision they scrapped entirely in 4.5 business days. But unfortunately, it's the internet, baby. It's like that planet Interstellar. Like they got done 4.5 business days, and they got back up like Matthew McConaughey, crying because watching all the a year's worth of bad will spill out over them because time just moves way faster. And here's where I do think that there is lasting damage, or at least they got to watch their next few moves, because their next few moves will do good to rebuild, a faith in them that like, when you screw with this, if you are serious about like, no, we want to be the method by which you buy houses and raise children. We are fundamentally changing what it means to be a professional entertainer thanks to this. And listen, I think we are all on certain levels living proof that this is real. This change is working. We are different. Our lives are fundamentally different because of Patreon. Then when you screw up, you're not screwing up a website. It's not like when Twitter screws up, Facebook screws up, and those are far more popular. But it's like, if Twitter went away, we'd all be on Facebook a little bit more. And then eventually we'd find another thing that scratched that itch. For Patreon, if Patreon screwed up like that, if they had really rolled that out and we saw seismic changes in how people were supporting us, and for whatever reason, like you said, Brian, it was also just kind of an excuse for some people to mosey on off into the distance and find something else to spend their money on. Like, that's Brian has to make decisions now on hiring, right? On how much people get paid. I got to think about whether or not I'm freshening up that resume of mine to see if I should start shaking the tree for job opportunities, because like that's what you're talking about. And that's not, man, hashtag poop on Patreon. That's like, you're messing with my life, dude. Yeah. Like now, this time it's personal.
Yeah. I mean, your friend of mine, Mikey Newman, was quoted in a New York Times story about it.
Oh, what did he say? He said, "This is great. Nothing bad will happen."
No, I mean, and he's been very vocal about his feelings on Twitter. I don't want to paraphrase because I don't remember exactly. But
okay. It
was an article about the reversal, and it's tough. It's going to affect people a lot. Jay Milius points out that in the future there will be more services like Patreon, and this is a really critical time for them. If Kickstarter
and this is to take it back to kind of an after things topic.
Yeah.
It's the right call for Patreon to shut the hell up and continue the growth engine, because in the growth phase, it's a land rush, and as much territory as you can cover, that's all that matters, because then there'll be a time you could change all the rules down the line. You could change all the fees down the line. But what matters is when you have an emerging market, you claim as much territory as you possibly can. Mm-hmm. And in the case of Twitter, we're now 10 years into Twitter, and they're still taking losses because they're claiming territory, because they understand that in the long term, this is the world's chat room, and there's going to be some valuable, ways to monetize it.
I could see in that now, if I'm in Patreon's shoes and I needed to make this first step of changing fees, I could see we're doing it now versus doing it X number of years down the road, where there are more competitors and people are getting more competitive about payouts, to jump the gun now and rip the Band-Aid off as soon as possible, versus when PayPal's got another subscription button, once Kickstarter Drip is available to everybody, when coffee starts becoming a real thing, Gumroad and all these other things.
Well, and I guess that's the thing, though, is
or any of these competitors come up with a name that in any way is something that you want to say verbally.
Sure.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Well, and keep in mind also, Patreon, in terms of the audience's mind, is still one of the best games in town as far as the patrons getting the vast majority of the money, right? You've got Twitch subscriptions that are
50%.
50%. You've got other stuff, like, oh look, hey, 70% goes to them. Like 90% is a pretty good number.
But the questionable thing is, like, we haven't seen competitors really come out yet. We don't know exactly what the payout for Drip is, because that's invite only.
Right.
We don't know what the new YouTube subscribe payout exactly is going to be, or I don't know what it is. I'm sure some people do. Twitch obviously has a very specific percentage. Either Patreon grows and everyone adapts to it, and that makes Patreon weaker in the future to make a change like this, or they do it now.
Yeah, I think they overestimated.
I understand. I'm saying it's not a good move, but I understand why they would do it now rather than later.
Yeah, I guess, and you're right. If you thought you had financial cancer, you might be tempted to just rip that Band-Aid off now. But the difference from 90 to 95%, I think, was a bigger perceived deal to them than it turned out to be to the consumers, because, obviously.
Sure.
Well, yeah, and look, at some point, somebody in New York had a meeting at Kickstarter when they decided, all right, Patreon, our number one rival that we are going to be chasing in the market is having a massive public relations crisis. We are right now invite only. Do we widely expand how many invites we are sending out? Like, do we make this semi-public or allow creators to hand out more invites to people that they believe would be good on the platform? And if you're Patreon, you are thrilled that they made the decision to not do that, because if anything, if we had gotten an invitation, well, whether or not Patreon got their act together, we're eventually going to get on that platform, and we're eventually going to say, hey, you can also support us on Drip. And now, despite the fact that saying the word Drip is just such an unpleasant thing.
It's a bad name.
All of these names suck.
Hey, so
But,
this is interesting. Sorry. Did you want to wrap up that thought?
I'm just saying that like, now there's another. Now the next time Patreon might screw up, or we don't like something that happens with Patreon, or we have a philosophical disagreement with Patreon, we can get high and mighty and say, everybody go to Drip. Because if there's one thing that we did learn from Patreon is, holy crap, is nothing good for business like controversy.
Like righteous indignation. Righteous indignation is good for business. So Lon Makes in the chat says that his preferred support methods are Patreon first, then products, then Twitch sub, then PayPal. And here's the curious part. Look at the payouts on those. Patreon is 90% paid to the person. Products is, let's say, anywhere from 70 to 40%, or 70 to 30% going to the person.
Sure.
Twitch sub but that is on the creator's decision to decide exactly how much they are going to get made based on what they're pricing.
Sure. Yeah. And number 3 is Twitch sub, which is only 50% to the creator. And then fourth place out of the 4 is PayPal, which is 97% going to the creator. So clearly, at least for Lon Makes, the percentage going to the creator wasn't the determining issue.
Well, we do get a lot of people who say, hey, what's the best way I buy this for you? We get that a lot. We get that when there's Night Attack albums or any big project. We've gotten that fielded before. For a lot of people, I do think it is. But also, like, hey, PayPal's got a very bad reputation. Just flat out, like.
Oh, it's just kind of grody in general because you don't. It's not
it's
really
just
a bank.
seizing
PayPal can take your money.
accounts and chargebacks and stuff like that.
Yeah. So I get it. Do you guys want to do some After Things picks, or do you have?
Yeah. I don't know. You know what? We could do a book club thing.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna make a pick for something I haven't read yet.
Okay.
And I'm really excited to read it. I had the chance to meet up with Robert Evans, a columnist at Cracked, formerly of Cracked. There was a big firing at Cracked.
Right.
And like 19 people got let go. But when we met up, he was talking about he was like, oh, have you read my book? I was like, what? No. And he says, yeah, it's a brief history of vice, how bad behavior built civilization. And it's about it's about how throughout history, human monkeys have aspired to get themselves messed up. And he explores some of the different methods. He digs up some ancient methods of getting messed up and experiments on his friends.
So like alcohol and weed.
Yes, and blends thereof and all this other stuff. And so he reports on his experiments on friends, and I'm excited about that.
Cool. Justin, do you have a pick? I've got one if you need a minute.
Yeah. You go ahead.
So I don't know that you know him by name, but you'll certainly know his work. William Pugh, currently of Crows. Formerly, formerly one of the creators of the Stanley Parable. He has a new app out, and Crows has been doing a lot of these fun little apps. You might remember a year or two ago, Dr. Langeskov.
Oh yeah,
the emerald, the tiger, and the whirlwind heist, or some really long names.
Yeah, and it had nothing to do with any of those. It sounded like a Wes Anderson title, and then ended up being just a
great meta narrative on behind the scenes of playing a game, and that was a free, interesting experience. Crows has a new mobile game called Eat the Revolution. It's on iOS and it's on Android. It's a free game. It's very easy to play. I almost don't want to tell you anything about it, but if you know the pedigree of these people, It's very.
Would it be safe to say that sight unseen, not knowing anything about this, whatever it is it's pretending to be, it almost certainly is not, and that I shouldn't let what it's pretending to be affect my decision of whether or not to have this experience?
I'll say it's a short free mobile game, and you should play it, and you can play it. You could probably play it in one sitting. In fact, the only thing I'll tell you is that you can finish it. That sort of got to me the first time I played it because I just wasn't sure really what I was doing and if I was leading up to anything, and there absolutely is. And it took me reading an article about it to realize, oh, I need to open this up and finish this, I guess. And it's really cool. And
awesome.
I recommend that. It's Eat the Revolution.
You want to know what? Hey, in that lawn makes depth chart, I would like to remind everybody that today and tomorrow, pretty much the last time that if you want to get stuff shipped to you on places like Scam Stuff or Stickers or DIAF or the Contender.us, $17.76 base decks. We've got a big old deal of $99. You get every card we have ever made in the Contender. 750 cards for only $99. Man, you better go now because certainly with priority shipping, you'll get it in 2 days. But we're trying.
I think they're saying they're trying to get the holidays orders because it's getting real close out there, everybody.
Yeah. Also, I'm Justin Robert Young.
And now I'm back.
Now I'm back.
Now I'm back.
We totally an uninterrupted stream, Justin. We heard all of it.
Good. Good.
So yeah, the Contender.us and stickers or DIF for Justin. Cool. Well, hey, good talk, everybody. This
As
is
it always is.
Always
Bryce,
is.
consummate host and professional. Great as always.
I mean, above average. I mean, compared to where we are by average, above that.
It's been after. Coolio. Hey, good work, everybody.
That was fun. Those were 2 good episodes.
Yeah.
Very different.
Very cool. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. We'll be back with Cord Killers in a little bit with our big Star Wars spoiler in time. After that, I think.
Yeah, I still have to finish the last half of Mr. Robot.
I think you need to make your Achilles.
By the way, I tried to get Mr. Robot on iTunes, and it was just a spinning wheel. It wouldn't let me buy it.
Oh man,
weird.
I'm all in on that Amazon environment. That stuff is on time and fast and works on everything.
Yeah, so now it's on Apple now. I guess I just need to buy it on another thing, and then it'll show up and play on my Apple TV. So maybe I just got to do that.
Yeah. And plus also like you have a number of devices that you can plug into the Amazon stuff. You could buy it on any of the devices. You just go find it. And then like on your Switch you could buy it and you just have to enter the 5-digit movie code that you set.
If you have an Apple TV now has the Amazon Video app. So if you buy it,
that's what he was saying. Yeah.
I would need to buy it somewhere else and then play it there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just really annoying. I was just trying to figure it out, but for whatever reason, Apple, the iTunes store, and it's just season 3, not season 1, not season 2. Only season 3.
Trey's saying that's a known issue. I wonder if it's because of all their screwed up title names or all the like file names.
Oh, they all look like pirated files.
I wonder if that messes up their system somehow.
That's interesting.
Yeah, but that's not like a new naming convention for them. Like it's always been whatever .avi.
Yeah, but maybe specifically like the wacky title has a SQL injection code or something that won't work with their setup.
Oh man, we didn't talk about this, but did you guys see all this like Firefox stuff this past week?
No.
They had the new upgrade.
All right, guys, I gotta go eat before I do 1-900. I'll talk to you.
Okay, bye, Justin. Damn it. So like they had the new update for Firefox, and it's pretty snappy and all that stuff. But part of it is like they built in Pocket integration. Pocket, the news article saving.
Okay.
Website.
You see something and you're like, throw that in my pocket.
Put it in my pocket. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cute. They should have made that their slogan somehow.
Throw that in my pocket.
It in my pocket.
Yeah.
One of the things that Firefox updates sometimes will do is turn on experimental features or lab sort of features. And one of those features was an integration with USA Network's Mr. Robot, which was a plugin that would sometimes invert text or change text on pages that it was loading. or it would like censor words, like if the word like stuff tangentially related to Mr. Robot showed up,
I see.
it would screw up. Oh, oops! Hold on, we're frozen.
We look happy.
Yeah, there we go. It would mess with the rendering of pages in a way that was pretty nasty.
Huh.
They eventually said like, okay, that was screwed up. We will put that as a plugin in the store and not
just give it to everyone.
But it's a weird thing that Firefox.
So they integrated it for everybody who had Firefox.
It was a labs type feature. And
okay.
Sometimes when you update Firefox, it will turn that feature on. So I think it was not super widely done. I don't think it was affecting everybody, but it's really dumb to do it even in that sense. Even if you were in a labs thing.
Yeah, agreed.
And it's just so weird that like the new Firefox means that there's like a new marketing push, and it's what did I see? The browser for the people, not for profits.
Oh,
jeez. It's like you
Mm.
just did an advertising deal with NBC.
Yeah.
What do you think you're doing?
The people like Comcast Worldwide, NBC
Like
Universal
Leslie
Productions.
Moonves.
Yeah. They're corporations are people too, guys. Come on.
They
If
need
the's one thing we've taught
the
on
help.
Mr. Robot. All right. Well, look, we'll see you guys in a bit.
right.
So we've got how's it going to look on Cord Killers? We're going
to have a shorter Cord Killers.
Okay.
We'll have a spoiler in time with an unknown number of people. I've gotten a lot of emails and not
a lot of
clarification.
can't make it.
Yeah. So
yeah.
I think we'll have Justin. I think we'll have Jenny.
Okay.
Of course, Tom. We'll see. We'll have guests to talk about Star Wars: The Last Jedi, and then we'll probably talk about Mr. Robot at the end, or we'll figure that out. And
I assume we'll wedge Deadwood in there too, which is too bad. This is a good episode of Deadwood.
Oh yeah, maybe. Yeah, I don't even know. Yeah, probably. And then we'll do the Killies after that. Our favorite shows and movies and stuff from the year.
Okay.
So
great.
That's all coming up in about in a little over 2 hours. So we'll see you guys then. Bye.
Done.
Something or another is more distinct, and it's quite obvious where